Hello friends, imagine checking your phone on America's Independence Day and seeing a headline that changes the way you think about the American dream. While fireworks filled the sky and millions celebrated the nation's 250th birthday, something equally powerful was happening in Seattle. 252 immigrants from around the world were taking the oath of allegiance and officially becoming citizens of the United States. For every person standing in that ceremony, this was far more than a celebration. It was the end of a journey that, for many, had taken years of waiting, paperwork, interviews, background checks, and uncertainty. Some had arrived as students. Others came as skilled workers, refugees, or through family sponsorship. Each person carried a different story, but they all shared one unforgettable moment. But here is what most people still do not realize. This ceremony was not only about honoring 252 new Americans. It also highlighted the strength of the legal immigration process and reminded millions of immigrants currently living in the United States that citizenship is not simply granted with time, it is earned through patience, preparation, and meeting the legal requirements established under federal immigration law. Held at Seattle Center during the nation's historic 250th birthday celebration, the naturalization ceremony became one of the most meaningful events of the day. While crowds gathered to celebrate the country's past, these new citizens officially became part of its future. Families watched proudly as parents, children, grandparents, and friends witnessed a life-changing milestone that many had dreamed about for years. For many of those new citizens, this was the moment when years of uncertainty finally came to an end. The oath of allegiance marked the final legal step in the naturalization process administered by USCIS. After completing interviews, background checks, eligibility reviews, and other required steps, they were finally able to call themselves American citizens. That moment carried more than legal significance. It represented security, belonging, and the confidence to build a future without wondering what comes next. For countless immigrant families, citizenship is not just a new legal status. It is the beginning of a new chapter filled with opportunities that once felt far away. At the same time, this story carries an important message for millions of people who are still somewhere along that same path. Whether you are a permanent resident, an international student, a temporary worker, or someone hoping to immigrate legally in the future, understanding how the naturalization process works has never been more important. This is where many people make a mistake. Some believe that living in the United States for several years automatically leads to citizenship. That is simply not how the system works. Becoming a citizen requires meeting specific legal requirements, maintaining eligibility, and successfully completing every stage of the process. Time alone is never enough. That is why stories like the one in Seattle matter far beyond a single ceremony. They remind us that behind every naturalization certificate is a person who stayed committed, followed the rules, and refused to give up despite delays, changing policies, and the many challenges that often come with the immigration journey. As the ceremony continued, one thing became impossible to ignore. Although the people taking the oath spoke different languages, came from different cultures, and had followed different paths to America, they all reached the same destination at exactly the same moment. That is one of the most powerful parts of every naturalization ceremony. For a few minutes, individual stories become part of a much larger American story. The timing made this event even more meaningful. As communities across the country celebrated America's 250th birthday, these 252 new citizens were not simply honoring the nation's history. They were becoming part of its future. For many immigrants, that moment represents years of perseverance. Before taking the oath of allegiance, applicants must first qualify for naturalization under the requirements established by federal law. In most cases, that includes maintaining lawful permanent resident status for the required period, demonstrating good moral character, meeting physical presence and continuous residence requirements, and successfully completing the English and civics tests unless a legal exemption applies. None of those steps happens overnight. Many applicants spend years carefully building a record that shows they have followed immigration laws, respected their responsibilities, and remained committed to becoming citizens. That is why the celebration in Seattle resonated with so many people beyond those who attended in person. It reflected the experience of countless families across the country who understand just how much patience the process requires. For parents, citizenship often means greater stability for their children. For young professionals, it can open career opportunities that are available only to U.S. citizens. For many families, it also brings peace of mind, because they no longer have to renew a permanent resident card every several years, or worry about keeping that status while planning their future. But this is also where expectations need to stay realistic. Many people hear inspiring success stories and assume every immigration case follows the same timeline. It does not. Processing times can vary depending on individual circumstances, application volumes, and government resources. Two people applying under similar circumstances may still experience different timelines. Understanding that reality helps reduce unnecessary frustration. Another lesson from this ceremony is the importance of preparation long before filing a naturalization application. Immigration officers review the information applicants provide very carefully. Travel history, tax records, previous immigration filings, and other official documents all help establish eligibility. This is where many people make a mistake. Some applicants wait until the last minute to organize years of paperwork. Others discover that important documents are missing or contain information that needs clarification. While many issues can be resolved, fixing them often takes additional time that could have been avoided through early preparation. Keeping organized records is one of the simplest ways to reduce stress during the immigration process. That includes maintaining copies of immigration notices, passports, travel records, tax documents, and any correspondence received from USCIS. Having accurate information readily available makes it much easier to respond if additional evidence is requested. Another area that deserves careful attention is international travel. Most travelers do not realize this until it becomes a problem. While lawful permanent residents are generally free to travel abroad, extended trips outside the United States may affect continuous residence requirements for naturalization in certain situations. Every case is different, which is why understanding the rules before making long international trips is so important. A short conversation with a qualified immigration attorney or careful review of official USCIS guidance can prevent misunderstandings later. Honesty also remains one of the most important parts of the naturalization process. Applicants are expected to answer questions truthfully during interviews and provide complete information throughout their applications. If an applicant does not understand a question during an interview, asking for clarification is always better than guessing or providing inaccurate information. Immigration officers understand that many applicants are nervous. Their goal is to determine eligibility based on the facts of each case, not to confuse applicants with trick questions. Stories like the Seattle ceremony remind us that successful naturalization is rarely the result of luck. It is usually the result of careful preparation, patience, and following the legal process step by step. For millions of immigrants who are still waiting for their own opportunity, that message may be just as important as the celebration itself. Every completed application, every approved interview, and every oath ceremony begins with someone making the decision to stay committed, even when the process feels long or uncertain. And that is exactly why this ceremony captured national attention. It was not simply about 252 people receiving new passports in the future. It was about recognizing 252 individual journeys that reflected determination, resilience, and the belief that the American dream is still possible through the legal immigration process. There is another reason this ceremony deserves attention, and it goes far beyond the celebration itself. For millions of people living in the United States on visas or permanent resident status, becoming a citizen is often viewed as the final destination. But reaching that point requires understanding not only the benefits of citizenship but also the responsibilities that come with it. The moment an applicant takes the oath of allegiance, they officially become a citizen of the United States. Along with new rights come new civic responsibilities. Citizens may vote in federal elections, serve on juries when called, apply for a U.S. passport, and, if eligible, sponsor certain family members under U.S. immigration law. These are significant changes that can shape a family's future for generations. For many of the new citizens in Seattle, this was likely the first time they could truly say they no longer felt like temporary guests in the country they had chosen to call home. After years of building careers, raising children, starting businesses, and contributing to their communities, the oath represented a lasting sense of belonging. That emotional moment is something difficult to measure with numbers alone. Imagine standing beside people from every corner of the world. each carrying different memories, different struggles, and different dreams. Then, in one shared moment, everyone raises a hand and promises loyalty to the same nation. It is easy to understand why so many families in the audience became emotional. Yet this story also offers practical lessons for anyone still navigating the immigration system. One of the biggest mistakes people make is relying on outdated advice from friends, social media posts, or unofficial online forums. Immigration policies, application forms, filing fees, and processing procedures can change over time. Information that was accurate a few years ago may no longer apply today. That is why immigration experts consistently recommend checking official guidance directly from U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services before submitting important applications or making decisions that could affect your immigration status. Another common misunderstanding involves the naturalization interview. Many applicants worry that the interview is designed to find reasons for denial. In reality, the interview allows immigration officers to confirm that an applicant meets the legal requirements for citizenship. Applicants are typically asked about the information provided in their application, their travel history, their background, and their knowledge of English and basic U.S. civics when those requirements apply. Preparation makes an enormous difference. Applicants who carefully review their application before the interview, bring the requested documents, and answer honestly are generally in a much stronger position than those who arrive unprepared. This is also why keeping accurate records throughout your immigration journey is so valuable. Documents that seem unimportant today could become essential years later during a naturalization application. Maintaining organized files from the beginning can save time, reduce stress, and help avoid unnecessary delays. The Seattle ceremony also sends an encouraging message to those who may still be waiting for their own opportunity. Every person who became a citizen that day once faced uncertainty. They waited for approvals, attended appointments, completed interviews, and continued moving forward one step at a time. Their success did not happen overnight, and it did not happen by accident. It came through persistence and a commitment to following the legal immigration process. That is an important reminder in today's environment, where immigration news often focuses on legal disputes, policy debates, border enforcement, or changing regulations. Those stories are important, but ceremonies like this highlight another side of the immigration system, one that celebrates individuals who completed every required step and reached an important milestone. For viewers who are still on that journey, this moment should serve as motivation rather than comparison. Every immigration case is unique. Timelines differ, personal circumstances vary, and legal requirements depend on individual situations. Comparing your progress to someone else's rarely tells the full story. Instead, focus on what you can control. Keep your immigration records organized. Respond promptly to official notices. Stay informed about policy updates from trusted government sources. If your case becomes complicated, seek advice from a qualified immigration attorney or accredited legal representative rather than relying on rumors or misinformation. As the celebration in Seattle came to a close, the applause was not simply for 252 new citizens. It was for every sacrifice, every challenge, every late night spent studying for the civics test, every interview attended with hope, and every family that stood together believing this day would eventually arrive. That is what made this ceremony so powerful. It reminded everyone watching that the American immigration story is not written in a single day. It is written over years of determination, patience, and resilience. And for many people watching this video today, your own story is still being written. Whether you are applying for a visa, waiting for permanent residence, preparing for naturalization, or simply trying to understand how immigration policies may affect your future, staying informed is one of the smartest decisions you can make. Always verify important updates through official government sources, keep your documents current, and never make major immigration decisions based solely on social media rumors or unverified advice. If this story inspired you or helped you better understand the naturalization process, share this video with your family, friends, or anyone whose immigration journey may benefit from accurate information. And if you want clear, reliable updates on U.S. immigration, visas, travel rules, and citizenship news explained in simple language, be sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next update.